You'd put in your CRM, but then you go, okay, well, I'm looking at this process. Of this process, this is the biggest pain point. Can we automate that piece?
Hi, I'm Khyati Pal, and this is all about CRM. On this episode, we're going to be focusing on recruitment sales, the difference between an ATS and a CRM, data, AI, and automation. From email campaigns to SEO, my favorite topic, all things CRM. We've got Jamie Hart with us, David Connolly, Neil Curry, Stuart Johnson, Mike Watman. Welcome, Christy.
Would I spend £50 to go to this conversation?
No.
No. And until the answer is yes, then change them.
Exactly.
I know marketing isn't able to be measured. I was like, excuse me? Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most measurable.
Someone described to me once that recruiters spend their place in two zones, the finding zone and the filling zone.
Yes.
And the trick is to spend more time, as much time as possible in the filling zone, because that's where the money is.
3 pieces of advice you would give to anyone starting their journey, currently shopping for, let's just say, maybe even a new CRM.
To find out.
Technology in the last 2 years has really grown, become faster, in some aspects become cheaper, but definitely has become very sophisticated. In fact, some will argue that with the AI adoption, the last 2 years have seen a seismic shift in how we utilize technology, both on a personal level as well as on a business level. So the episode today is going to focus on future trends, both emerging as well as those that are very close as far as recruitment CRMs are concerned. And who better to educate us on that than a Mr. Stuart Johnson from Mercury.
Hello, thank you.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Good, thank you. Now, Stuart, dare I say you've been in this industry for decades, 20 years, over?
Yeah.
Almost?
I've got experience.
Yes, you've got
I've got
experience. 360 experience. You've been in the recruitment side and you've also been on the tech side, the SaaS platform, CRM side, and you've seen it all, haven't you?
I've seen a lot. I don't think we've ever seen it all.
Yes.
Because life would be boring if we've ever seen it all. But I've seen a lot.
You've seen a lot.
You've seen a lot, good and bad.
Yeah, you've seen things come and go.
Things come and go. I've seen what works, what's successful, and the other side of that coin.
So then I have to ask, because obviously that's the burning question on everyone's mind.
Yep.
AI, fab or fad?
I think AI will prove to be fab. I think there's elements of it that are fad. And I've watched something recently, and the thing that resonated with me is how this AI expert put it was, I don't think it was AI by itself, it's the human and the AI. So humans with AI is the difference versus a human by themselves. It's that I think that's a key point.
Yeah, so AI is a tool.
Yeah.
Yes, and humans are the drivers for as long as they're the drivers.
Yeah, fear is the Terminator scenarios that we're going to, create and invent our own demise. Yes. But again, being optimistic, I think AI has the potential to be actually humans' last great invention, because then they'll say AI with that. But if it can help us cure diseases, solve cancer, cure cancer, those elements to it, improve and enrich everyone's lives and those elements, then that's got to be a massive plus.
It is. No Skynet and no dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. We don't want that.
No, not Skynet.
That's not our reality.
No, we hope not.
So, having just spoken about the fad and fab bit, it is the fad side of it seems to be popping up everywhere. There are a lot of platforms, there are a lot of existing platforms who are just producing or enriching, as they say, their platforms with gimmicky AI features that don't, in my opinion, necessarily add any real value when you look under the hood.
Yep.
In your expertise and opinion and seeing what you're seeing around, which features do you think are likely to stick that you've seen come through in the last couple of months or even 12 months?
I think if we put this within the frame of a lens of CRM technology, I think there's leaders and followers in the tech space within that. But if you look at what AI has a capability to do and how it's changing and evolving, I think what a CRM is and what it can be within a business. If you want to go way back to a world before even CRMs existed, and it was, filing cabinets and pieces of paper on desks, it was a database. The CRM was just a database where candidates went to live or sometimes die and disappear, like page 2 of Google. And then it's started to shift a bit more in terms of a platform. So it's gone from a product to a platform now we've integrated. Automation has started to come in and shift that as well. But I think AI then takes it to another level where it becomes, and how people should look at this is, it's a sales colleague.
Yes.
A lot of terminology, co-pilot, because it is that working alongside the human to ultimately some of the tasks they're not great or good at or take quite a long time, they can speed that up. So tools, I think that's the first tier that we're looking at. It's then how quickly can technologies progress to do the next level, something that is a bit more game changing for businesses. So I think when you look at what is AI's strength, it's its ability to process and mine data at scale and at speed. So where can then you deploy that within a recruitment context? Can it handle low value tasks? So screening is an area, and there's various elements you can automate. But if you are in a recruitment world where there's a heavy burden on having to screen a mass volume of candidates, can you use AI as part of that first wave, get them passed through before they get through to the human? If you take reality TV shows, we all know that the ones that make it on stage, they've all been through a process working with the producers, and they're on stage because they're going to be entertaining to that. They're not, the Simon Cowells aren't sitting through days and days of watching every single person. They've got a curated list. So can you use AI to curate a list of applicants that are relevant for the human, the recruiter, to spend their time developing and building those relationships and the networks is one example. Within Mercury, we've developed a component, what we call network AI. So this is its ability to look at a candidate and cross-reference that with all the other candidates you may have within your database and start to, by looking at things like education, work history, infer connections that may be there and surface that insight up to a recruiter saying, hey Stuart, we think this candidate is worth speaking to the hiring manager about this candidate because we think they work together here and they've got similar skills and backgrounds and you should go and introduce them there. And they may not have a open role on, so you can create opportunity. This data lives in your database and a human could do this, but it just takes too long.
God, it does.
Because of the volume.
Yeah, I think I read a report somewhere where it was like a recruiter spends almost 30 hours a week just sourcing candidates. And I remember from another roundtable I was part of where we were just talking about then formatting those CVs after, sourcing those candidates, and everyone was doing it manually. And it's just like these tasks are low level, very important, but high volume and takes up so much time that then recruiters are not able to do what they're good at doing, which is both nurturing talent but also selling those services.
Yeah. Someone described to me once that recruiters spend their place in two zones, the finding zone and the filling zone.
Yes.
And the trick is to spend more time, as much time as possible in the filling zone because that's where the money is.
Exactly. But then with the finding, because obviously in order to source candidates, even if it's not accurately, but to define certain patterns, to say, okay, perhaps based on history, you place these candidates for these roles. These were some of the additional qualifications or experience or skill set that they had. And therefore, these candidates are likely to be a good option for perhaps this role. Where do you see the challenges then? Because I feel like the feature and the technology is obviously there and is able to create those patterns. What are some of the challenges you think recruitment agencies are likely to see or experience when implementing or even thinking about this technology? So
in that specific example, I think you're right. The technology is there, but I don't think businesses are ready for that in terms of the quality of their data. So data is the big challenge in that space. Because the other consideration, which hangs off of data, is obviously bias. I mean, humans are biased anyhow, so the data will naturally flow potentially to show that. And obviously there's been used examples in the past. I think Amazon was a famous example where it wouldn't recommend any females for a particular role because they'd never hired any females historically in that role. So the technology can only work off the data it's fed. That's its food, that's its knowledge. It's the quality of the data. That's the effort,
But I think it's the quality, but also no matter how accurate the data is, it is historical. And let's just say historically, say if men have been promoted or been in leadership positions and that data is right, because there's nothing wrong with that data, that is being fed into the learning model. It is going to spit out that, okay, therefore a man is more the right fit for this role. I think that's where the human part comes in, because there's data, but if you want history not to repeat, if you do wish to change anything, you need to have that human layer of like building that prompt then, or making that change there that, okay, historically men have been put forward, you as a human recognize that, but maybe you re-engineer the model or you prompt the model to look for skills and not go for like person's name. Would there be differences? Because I haven't actually looked at this in how males in leadership versus females in leadership, their CVs read.
I think it comes down to the questions you're asking. If you ask the question to the the technology, find me people who are most likely to get this role based on previous success of previous applicants. If in that Amazon example, it's from that perspective, it's spitting out the right answer based on the question that is asked.
Yeah.
You know, I think with prompt, you can ask multiple questions within that. Please consider things or promoting elements such as gender, or calling out what trends are we seeing in this. So ask the question differently is probably a good way around that. And again, it's the data points you've got. For a lot of roles, the CV is often 1 or 2 pages about a person.
Yes.
And that tells nothing really. But if you're hiring salespeople, which I've had to do, a CV is a good start, but the questions and the skills, the capabilities that you're looking for in somebody, resilience. Can you see resilience on a CV? You might be able to see resilience in a CV. You know, is what you're looking to see from that perspective. So I think that takes to another level when you get AI technologies to do an interview process. Now, some certain roles, I think that's a good idea or a good use case. For others, that's a long way off being the right thing to do. In all these things, there are good use cases and poor use cases, and how businesses choose to use that technology, I think, will be determine their kind of success or failure in these areas.
Then looking at sourcing again, you said the CV is obviously 2 pages of your experience, condensed version, great starting point. But then when we're looking at technology, being able to accurately or at least give us a short list of, you know, the right candidates for a role, what other sources of data would we need to build a candidate profile within the CRM or whatever system you use for the AI then to show you the right fit?
I think the answer to that depends slightly on the area you're recruiting for. So if it's an area where qualifications and certifications and compliance particularly is good, that's not to say we're going to be there or up to date on a CV. You need to capture those elements to it. So those data sources. Again, in my example of hiring salespeople, okay, you do an interview, you take some interview notes. So that's a second set of data you need to add into a CRM for it to read off of to say, okay, what were the notes and assessments on there? Some of the AI capabilities already within the Mercury solution, we can do things like, here's some good questions to ask for this, and here's what good answers look like. You can summarize a candidate from the perspective of the particular role you're putting them forward for. That will actually give you 2 things. One, a customer facing message, but also it will give a side piece that says, hey, to the recruiter, the user, just bear in mind what some of the things why they might not be a fit based on the data we've looked at from here. So they're great for this, but the job spec also calls out for this, and that's not their strength. So we're emphasizing this skill set, but be conscious that they're not strong in this particular area, whatever that area is. So that needs to be factored in.
Yeah, just a helpful. I think, going back to your previous point, Copilot, an assistant, a tool that we use to actually do our work. This actually brings me on to the next question. Candidate experience.
Yeah.
It was a big thing when the candidate market was tight. In the last 2 years, obviously, as the market has shifted, there is an overabundance of candidates and not as many jobs. And from what I am seeing, candidate experience itself has taken almost a backseat. Not sure if you've witnessed that as well. But I think there's a renewed focus on like sell, at least from the conversations that I am hearing and seeing. Do you think the candidate experience is going to make a comeback soon? And with AI, what part or what processes that perhaps they currently do in-house, but some things that they can probably get the candidates to do themselves, like self-service, what part of those processes can the candidate be accountable for and take ownership for, freeing the business as well as ensuring that they have more accurate data and update information, really?
Lots of questions in there.
Sorry.
Yeah, lots of questions.
5 questions in one.
Yeah. So I think the way I'd say this is recruitment has always been about what I term owning the relationship. And so recruitment businesses that are successful, they get themselves at the very heart center between that candidate and client relationship. They're either the go-to business. If you're a candidate looking for a role in a certain sector, there are certain agencies, I need to talk to them because they're going to have the role. And that's why they go to them, because they've got the opportunity. Conversely, the client side, client has a problem. It's going to go to a specific agency if they've got a reputation being the go-to in that skill set they're looking to solve for. So if you look at a lot of the hallmark successful business recruitment agency, they've kind of got themselves at the heart, that middleman, for want of a better phrase. Technology has started to impact that, from such as digital staffing platforms, and started to kind of cut out. So if you look at technology from a wider perspective, that has Uber's a good example of this, of where the broker, the middleman, is being removed from a process and trying to connect end to end. So I think relationship stuff to me comes down to trust and experience. I think it may have taken a back seat, but I don't think it's gone away, and it will soon. I don't think business should ignore that and should be very focused on that experience, because people remember really positive experiences and also remember negative experiences, and they can retain that from a long time ago.
Especially
We've
negative
all
ones.
stayed at places and remember something. I forget what the stats are, but if you have a good experience, you'll tell a few people. A bad experience, you'll tell a lot more.
Everybody. You'll go online, basically.
Yeah. And then, so what do people want? Again, with the advent of technology is made, and you talked about self-service. The more can you get them to do self-service, the better for them. People generally are impatient and want answers quickly. And there's a big marketing guru guy called Rory Sutherland, and he talks, and there's an example he talks about, and one of the things, getting back to Uber, one of the big game-changing things they do is they took away uncertainty. What people like in the app, they can say, okay, it's going to be here in 10 minutes. Okay, I can deal with that because I know it's going to be 10 minutes. People don't like it when they go up to, when you see in a train station and it says delayed, you don't know when, or you're all preparing and you just say, okay, when's it going to be? People want certainty. So you flip that into the process of a candidate. They just kind of want to know where they are in that process, what their expectations are when they will hear back. If you set expectations they're going to hear back immediately, and they don't, they're going to be throwing you up, chasing you up that. But if you can manage those expectations and they can see where they are in the process, which you can do through portals and app, then I think that's a big step forward in terms of people, and the way sometimes businesses measure their NPS scores and experiences, they only just send it to people they place.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
So guess what? We've got really good NPS scores, but we've only asked people who really like us.
Yeah, who were placed by us.
So the data and the source of that data, or people we haven't been able to help, but they would still want to work with us in the end, I think is far more telling than someone you have helped who, well, you've technically placed them. You might have not done anything in that process. I've been a recruiter, and all I really in some processes was somehow get hold of the right candidate introduction, and the rest it was pure luck. The fact that the candidate got themselves that job. I've placed people where I've done, conversely, I've really helped them get that job because I've guided them, prepped them for all the questions they're going to have. I've run through that with them. I said, you're going to need to be stronger on that answer. They're going to trip you up here. You've got to think about this, and you kind of guide them through the process. Ask these questions. This is what's going to happen. So recruiters do a huge amount for their candidates.
Good recruiters, absolutely.
Doesn't necessarily pay off, but you've got to always look at things in the broader picture. A big thing people have been doing, I think, is building communities. Now, you might not be able to help someone today or get paid to help them. They'll come back to you if you've given them something in the past and they've had a positive experience with you. There you go. Long answer to a long question.
To a very long question with 5 questions disguised as my one question. So with candidate experience, the other thing that comes to life, which is going to become a lot more easier to deliver, but in the same breath saying that it's going to become almost more complicated because the quality may go down, is personalization in whether it's your client or whether it's your candidate. The ability to hyper personalize, again, based on the data. AI is going to be giving you the opportunity to do that. Where do you think it's headed as far as recruitment agencies' appetite is concerned for creating personalized experiences? Because so far, and again, I know I'm asking multiple questions. I feel like with recruitment as a function, it has the tendency to be more transactional. There is a change, there is a shift where people are building communities, where they're nurturing talent pools. And of course, that direction's shifting from transactional to something that's more planned, something that's more proactive. And I think that's why personalization plays a role. But it's not something that's happening on a scale that would warrant a change in reputation of recruitment being transactional, moving away from transactional. Where do you think the appetite is, especially in the next 2 to 3 years? Because there's a lot of information around like skills-based hiring. So talent pools are obviously like crucial to that. And in order to have like a good talent pool, personalization is crucial to that. And therefore candidate experience is crucial to that. How do you see that shift happening? How do you see that change happening? And what steps do recruitment agencies need to take? 6 questions.
6 questions. I've lost count. So I think when it comes to personalization and experience, everyone will say they want to offer that. But there's a lot of work that has to go in, a lot of discipline that has to go in to be able to deliver that. You've got to have solid data. You've got to be up to date on your data. And I think we might have talked about this in the prep. It's everyone wants a 6-pack, but are they willing to put the effort in the gym or whatever exercise you choose to do and eat clean and eat right?
Exactly. No beer.
You want it. Yeah, exactly. How much do you really want it? Or are you just saying you want it but aren't actually following up on do. So because the key to personalization is super solid, strong data that's maintained and upkept. You cannot go a day on LinkedIn without someone complaining about, or kind of just showing somebody how they've had a really bad approach from a recruiter, that it's just not right. You know, someone that's an IT leader, head of IT, being offered a support desk job because they've spat that out because they think that they're doing that role, and they've not updated their data is a great example. Having their name wrong.
God, that's the worst.
People really care about their name. If you get their name wrong, whether they like their name or not but if you get it wrong, it's a great way. This is where sometimes we're autocorrect on emails.
Yes.
You know,
oh God, my name autocorrects on my own phone, and I'm like, for God's sake, I've been using you for like the longest time. Get my name right.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
You can actually get people's name wrong when you're doing a personalised, just one-on-one email just for the autocorrect and not doing that. But if the name is wrong in the data source, and you can see, does the name match up to the email? And that's always not often on a candidate side, but on a business email address, you can spot where these things are going to go wrong quickly. But if you reach out to somebody, get their name wrong, you straight away got their backup. And you don't know me, you don't understand, you get me. No, I'm not going to listen to anything else. So I think it all comes down to the quality of your data. Are you prepared to invest in what I call a data culture? Get people data literate. Data is going to be the key thing. It's going to drive the way you make decisions, where you invest your time, where you invest your budgets. So I've seen businesses have a really strong data culture, and they tend to be quite successful then when they move CRMs, for example.
Because it's clean data, migration's easier. They know what they want.
They're just disciplined. Yeah, it's slightly clear in the first instance for sure, and they're clear on processes. They're also willing to probably actually slightly adapt some of the ways they're going to work to take advantage of the new CRM platform that they're going to take on. Again, there's no point changing CRMs if you're just going to lift and shift.
Exactly. Why do
that's
that?
Fail number one is I just want to rebuild that in that nice shiny new platform.
Change? Maybe price. Maybe want to look cooler.
I've seen it done, and you think, well, here's an opportunity to do it this way, because they have certain processes which are often driven by the old way of working, or the old technology. So again, a part of any implementation partner you work with will challenge you on those ends. So, okay, why do you not? You could do it this way. Yes, it's change, but it'll be quicker. It'll provide these advantages.
I think that's like the one-on-one of like business analysis. When you look at a process, you're like, if we weren't doing it like this, would we do it? Would we do it? Like, it's like, oh, actually, no. The reason why we're doing it is because we've never questioned it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why this is like the perfect opportunity to question things, because you're not going to forget return on investment. Even like innovating or moving forward or rethinking your business operations, you're not going to be able to achieve that with the technology or the tool alone. You have to rethink your processes and your skill sets.
Technology is purely an enabler of a strategy.
Exactly.
If you haven't got your strategy, you've got to get that. You've got to nail that first. How are we going to do that? And then how does technology support us in executing?
It's the how.
So if as a recruitment business, you want to drive improvements in the candidate and client experience, okay, what are the initiatives you're going to do that? And then a CRM, more functional, more up-to-date, better quality data-driven CRM is a component of that ultimate strategy. But you want those better client and candidate experiences because you believe the outcome of that is increased revenue.
Exactly.
Yeah, increased retention of customers. Particularly if you're in the contract. It surprises me the amount of times we speak to a business and go, okay, what is your retention rate on your contractors? And people often don't know the answer to that because they somehow find it very hard to measure.
But that should be some of the simplest things to measure.
You would think.
Yeah, because...
But often businesses, they actually don't measure it.
Well, okay.
Some don't. In the intro, you said, seen it all. Not quite, but seen things, you see things that you think, okay, that business just does that. That's really smart what those businesses do, but that business doesn't do that.
Yes.
So why? There's certain things everyone does. And then you get to the next level where, okay, that's smart what they do there. Okay. So they're not working with that candidate. They're tracking where they're working now and what agency they're working through. And they're capturing when that contract or whatever that placement is due to end.
Yes.
Because that will then could trigger an automation to remind me of, I'm just going to follow back up with them.
Absolutely.
There. Now, we capture, from our world, it's important for us to capture, your incumbent technology, when's that contract due? When's the renewal on that? Because then we can work back, because we can go, okay, so you've just renewed for another 3 years. Okay, so we know probably we can leave them alone for a year, but then we'll then follow up, and then that drives that process. So everyone's collecting data. Some of it's useful to you, some of it's useful to somebody else, but you've got to figure out what's that data we need to then drive our future activity.
What value you're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's a mindset thing as well, because in the process you just described, where it's like, okay, someone's got a contract through through perhaps like another agency and you're going to track it and see the duration.
Yep.
That information has to be put in, right? Like it'll be a manual thing in order to like capture that. It's basic stuff. It'll probably take you 10 seconds if you've got all the information. And then everything that will follow will be automated in terms of the reminder, perhaps even the communication that may go out, etc. But I think in my experience, what I've noticed it, because technology is not taking care of the entire thing, it's almost like, nah, it's useless. I might as well just do it myself. And it's like, no, but change it. You're only expected to put in 10 seconds of effort versus what would be an hour, if not more, of effort. Yeah. But because it's not taking over the entire process or the experience or whatever you may want to call it, you're like, nah, it's not worth it. And I just feel like that surprises me and also frustrates me. But it is still better than what you're doing. Just because it's not taking the entire responsibility off your hands does not mean that it's not better.
That comes down to people's expectations. So again, we see this when people look to move technology. If they're coming from a really old legacy, sometimes you get feedback, well, your technology is so far advanced, I worry if they can handle that change. I know that we will go with this other technology because we think that's less of a stepgap.
It's so annoying. It's very
As a salesperson, it's a difficult feedback to take and then have to then flip your messaging
like,
to kind
am
of
I too
change
good
their
for
mind.
you? Yeah.
But then you just have to change again. At certain sectors, it's quite fluid when in terms of their ability to want to change and review technologies. There is a bit of FOMO, I think some people get what the latest hot plug-in tool might be. But even with CRM technology, which should be really difficult to displace because it can be like open heart surgery to take one out and put one in.
Yes.
But people seem to be willing to go through that for some reason.
Do you think it's because of the adoption? Sorry to interrupt you just before I forget. Do you think it's because...
your show. You interrupt as much as you like.
Is it because the adoption continues to be poor and therefore it's not a big deal if they move from one CRM to another? It's almost like Band-Aid solutions, isn't it? Like rather than addressing the foundation issues, whether it's culture, mindset, or, lack of business processes and strategy, it's just like, okay, if I get this CRM, which has like these, amazing features, whether you want to do a revolutionary change or just like the next step, you're like, oh, well, they're not using this one anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Do you think it's a little bit of that?
You get that. I think people, they're almost delegating responsibility for adoption. Again, adoption has to sit with the leaders of the business. There's a mix of carrot and stick, for sure, within that. But if it's not clearly communicated why you're changing, otherwise you should just go and use Excel spreadsheets.
Exactly. Spend hours, days.
It's okay, why do you want to change? Well, people aren't using it right now. So what makes you think people will use Mercury? Well, because of this, because of that. Okay, but some of the fundamental problems will still be the same. So unless you address those, do you reward, is using the CRM rewarded and not using the CRM not rewarded? Get the story back to data and the importance of data and driving AI is they're starting to put KPIs in their business and determining how people get paid out their commission based on KPIs around data quality.
I like that.
So that business is being probably a more progressive thinker because they realise one of the engines underneath this all that's powering all this technology is the data and the quality of data, and therefore humans are having an input on that. So we've got to make sure they buy into it. Again, we had an event, you've been to some of our events, but a conversation there was we'll start to look at, and these are recruitment leaders, and say, actually we give our recruiters a lot of tools. If they don't use them, I want to pay them less money, because if they were to realise the amount of investment that goes into their desk to do, if they were to again go away and start up by themselves, which some people do, but that's when a big business people suddenly realise how much investment was going around them there, and it's just not use that technology. So that's why you get people want to drive. When it comes to adoption, you've got two different stakeholders here. The people paying for the technology leadership, and they want something out of it, but the user, its kind of job is to historically input data. That's all they're doing. It's seen as a chore, it's an admin task. I'm just inputting it so you can report on it and have a go at me about these things. It's got to actually help them get to where they want to be.
Yes.
And again, AI can help with that now in terms of automatic data capture. Call transcripts. Again, we've got a technology which we call Activity AI. I can just talk to Mercury. It can put my notes in, and it can see I've talked about a follow-up task and then create those tasks for me. I can have a call with you as a recruiter. You're a hiring manager. You're giving me, so I just need one of these people, Stuart. Blah, blah. You're not really giving me a proper job description.
Which you never do.
Never get that. And I need them by this date. So either that call can be transcribed and captured that way, or if that's not happened, I can just have a conversation with Mercury like I'm speaking to a colleague. It's like I've got a human colleague that I could just dictate this to, and they would type it all and arrange it for me. Yeah, it's AI doing the work, the legwork in the background, and that will create the vacancy for me. It will create the follow-up task I mentioned, and all I didn't have to do, I've not had to key anything in.
No.
I pressed a couple of buttons, off I go. And that is so much faster, and it's a win for me because I wouldn't have done it probably. Or if I would have done it, it would have taken me 10, 15 minutes. It would have taken me 30 seconds to explain what happened on that call.
Yeah.
Off I go.
I think the adoption of audio, like just talking to AI, I think it's going to be rapid once people get the hang of it, because it's just the most natural thing as well, isn't it? Instead of like typing prompts, to be able to just converse and go, this is what I want. And for that to happen, even though, of course, you need to have like that oversight. And I think, again, it'll be a mindset shift where it's like, you don't have to do all of the work, but you still have to do some of the work. My big thing is, when it comes to putting in data, people are actually putting that data somewhere, right? So it's either on their emails, their notes on their desks, their individual spreadsheets.
In their head.
Yeah, in their head, of course, you know, the best place.
Yeah.
It's the data does live somewhere, but on an individual level, sorry. It's where they are putting the data in. And I think the whole carrot and stick analogy, I feel like we need to like get rid of that.
What's your new analogy?
Yeah, my new thing is we don't negotiate certain things. It's a bit of a dictatorship,
Okay,
obviously.
okay. It's just very much stick.
No, there's no stick. Obviously, it's just the way we do things. And I think the only way to be able to confidently say that or establish that, and for it to resonate with your team members and not come across as a dictatorship, is if you have a plan, a strategy that you communicate and you show how the CRM is the how and how it's going to not only help the business, but them. But I don't think there needs to be a carrot or stick. I just feel like it's not what's in it for me. Well, I don't know, the job, you know?
Well, there is that element to it. I think what you're talking about there is kind of a culture. A business is a culture, and these are the sort of behaviours we expect to be successful.
Behaviour.
And there is, I forget the name of it, but it talked about, you have a line, and there's above the line behaviour, and there's below the line behaviour. And then you talk in that sense. That's great, above the line behaviour. That's below the line behaviour.
Yes.
Now, that's not going to be accepted.
Exactly.
Here. And then you roll in the input of the use of the CRM, if you want to call it that way, as part of what's expected of you. We expect you to turn up for work between these hours.
Yes, exactly.
Okay? And whether those hours, that's another topic about working hours, but generally in and around these areas, we expect you to do these tasks because, in a sales sense, we expect you to do these tasks and these KPIs because they generally lead to success. Over a period of time, if you do these things, it will lead to success because it's a process. So again, a lot of recruitment businesses, their model is to hire graduates, inexperienced people, teach them a way of working, and if people follow that process, success will follow. The trick is to try and condense that as quick as possible because that's more money coming in, and if people are successful faster, they tend to want to stick around and do that. Again, it's one of the big challenges of our clients is it's taken quite a long time to get people productive. So part of the transformation they were looking to achieve was, can we get speed to productivity fast, quicker? And therefore, bring more money, but also lead to better retention. Because again, a lot of recruitment business models are based on hiring heads. You've got to get them productive and you've got to get them to stick around and stay. Because if they don't,
all that time's
you just
wasted.
it's more water falling. You've got a leaky bucket at the bottom, so you can keep and to put more. And there are only so many human beings in this planet, and there's only so many that want to be a recruiter. So you can't.
What? Everyone wants
you can't
to be
find
one.
them. Unfortunately, not all recruitment businesses that are looking in growth mode. Put a big focus on their culture, the investments they make in technology, their office, all the incentives, people with incentive trips. They want to make a place seem like it's a great place to come and work. People then get into that environment and go, oh, this is tough. This is hard work. If you don't see success, you go, I'll just go and try something different.
Which is fair.
So, yeah.
Okay. Data analytics and predictive models.
Yeah.
That's a big thing, right, with AI. Again, of course, data is crucial for any kind of analytics or predictive models to become, everyday use cases in businesses. What incentive do you think businesses need, and what skill set do businesses need to think about to get to that point where data analytics and predictive models are everyday, used every day for decision making?
So the promise with that is you can make smarter and smarter decisions either way. But to get to a point is you have to then trust what the machine is saying, because we all have a gut feel. Does that smell right? If that information is coming out, that smell right? In my experience career, I used to sell a business intelligence technology that you could literally plug into some Excel spreadsheets and you could create dashboards pretty quickly.
Okay.
And part of that process, so we'd take some of the customer's data, plug it into our technology and play it back to them. I remember once doing something with a hospital up in Birmingham way. Long story short, the data spat out a dashboard that showed that most people attending A&E on a Friday and Saturday was alcohol related. Now, people accepted that because it made sense.
Yes.
And it confirmed what we probably thought. That's a good proof point because, okay, if that tells them that, fine. Then if it starts telling us something in other areas, it's easier to believe that. It's got to stack up, but it all builds on the data that's being fed into that and the questions you're asking, the way you build that report. And also with data, it's data storytelling. How do you tell that in the visuals you use? Because sometimes using the right chart can be super powerful versus the wrong chart, because people won't get the message. But the technology is there to say, right, okay, and it all exists. So based on previous stuff, you need to get 2 or 3 more candidates up for this. Your chances are improving that. You know, working at Gartner was a hugely data-driven business, and you'd get insights from the CRM saying, right, Stuart, if you do this next step in these next days, it will increase your chance of selling this and closing this deal by 4%. Or whatever percentage number would be. So it's driving the people to do the next steps for it. So it's looking, okay, what's happened so far? What needs to happen next in a standard flow? Obviously, it depends how standard your processes are. And that's the other thing. You've got to build for the majority. There's always going to be edge cases, and you've just got to sometimes figure out how you handle those. But if we get the main stuff of what bulk we do right, that's where you will get accelerated value.
Yeah. I think the other beauty of AI models is the whole querying and easily being able to query the data, like conversationally.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, to your point about Friday nights or Saturday nights, people attending A&E and them being alcohol related, that's what we've got, and it kind of confirms our beliefs as well. But what if there was more? And what if you wanted to know more? You can really drill down.
And you dig in,
and easily as well, rather than like sort of looking at Excel spreadsheets or like having a degree in data science or data analytics. You can just converse with AI and really understand what's going on and ask it to look for perhaps like unrelated, you know, instances, and then maybe tie that in with your gut.
Yeah. What AI is really good at, and ultimately what it's looking to do and how it's all working underneath, is spotting the patterns.
Yes.
So again, there's a really cool documentary. I think it's called Go. It's about, they created this AI machine to play this game. I think the game has Chinese origins. It's like small, it's super, super complicated, more complicated than chess, for example. And so the idea was, if you could train an AI to compete with the grandmasters of this Go game, that would be a massive win. It's worth watching. The spoiler here is the machine was able to be trained so well, and because it can play so many games so fast, it built its experience level up. It was able to beat the best in the world. But what's interesting about this anecdote is that it created new strategies, new tactics, new ways of playing, that the human champions watched it back and did that, well, they were amazed by. Because when they were playing these games, the experts were saying, okay, based on this, we think that's got a 4% chance of winning. And the machine was saying, no, I've got an 80% chance of winning. The human couldn't see what the machine could, because the machine had played so many more games than the human had over time. It's like Doctor Strange in Endgame.
Yeah.
And he can see the 14 million different outcomes, and he tells Iron Man, this is the one that he does, because he was able to go and do that at scale.
Yes, meditating.
There you
Okay,
go.
14 million scenarios. Okay.
We out of time?
Not yet.
Not yet. We've got one go.
Give me one last question.
Okay.
3 things you believe are going to happen in the next 12 months, and 3 things that are going to happen in the next 5 years. Just roll them off.
I think, 3 things that are going to happen.
In the next 12 months.
I think there is going to be some consolidation.
Yes.
I think people are starting to see that some of what I call the legacy proprietary technologies are just not the ones to invest in the future. The Microsofts and the Salesforce platform-based technologies have a huge advantage in terms of the investment they ride off the back of, what they can do, and technologies plug in.
And customizable. So customizable.
Extendable, customizable, and just more readily available skill set in that space. You're going to see, there's always new players emerging in there. You're going to see more and more businesses making a change in that direction is one. I think people are still on the journey of adopting automation, but then AI is going to come, that period of time, people are going to expect certain AI capabilities just to be there as standard features and functionalities within that. And I think related to recruitment, what we're starting to see as well now is more emphasis now on what I call digitization of the middle office piece and connecting that to the front. That is the area that's kind of been left behind. It's an area people don't necessarily want to touch too much because of the way, if you get it wrong there, it can have real big ramifications. The pain there is becoming so bad, they're having to address that. So again, having that ability to manage from lead through to cash on a platform is the area where we see a lot of people now being very interested in. So that's the 3 things that I'm going to think happen there. And what was the second part of that question?
3 things in 5 years. You can be really bold, because obviously no one's going to know.
I think to a certain extent, the CRM as we know it and what people think is dead. and the way people are going to interact in the future, what it is, a lot of businesses or product technology are spending a lot of emphasis on their UI, and I think that's going to become potential. I think the way we interact, like we talk with voice and interaction, and the way you can put goggles on and talk to a machine like that, the UI is going to be irrelevant, because you're just talking to the machine like you're talking to another human.
And it'll be sourcing from multiple data sources.
Just give me the outcomes of that. You can already now, with one of the things we're about to roll out shortly is the ability, I can interact with a recruiter, a co-pilot, and say, okay, tell me about my day. What have I got on today? What's my plan? Okay, what interviews I've got? Where do I need to focus my attention? Okay, these roles haven't got any CVs. You should work on these jobs today. Having that interaction, okay, I'm going to go off and do that. So from a CRM perspective, in that 5 years' time, people who have picked the solution based on UI are going to be thinking, naturally, we made the wrong decision there. That didn't matter in the end. The CRM in itself is a sales colleague. People invest in that piece. It's probably my big one.
Okay.
On that. I can't think of any others.
No, that's fine.
So I think that's a good one.
That's a great one. I think it's going to become not just a sales colleague. I think it's just going to become a business colleague, for everybody. And also a colleague for the customer. It's going to become that conduit, like that seamless conversation where everything, this is 5 years from now, so I can be bold, where everyone knows where they're at and the data is up to date and they can experience the service that they want.
I think that's definitely achievable for the progressive, forward-thinking businesses that are willing to put the time. There's always going to be people still working off spreadsheets, even pen and paper.
Yes.
The business is still out there.
You got to admire those spreadsheets.
Moving cards across a room.
Yes.
And all that. Excel is the cheapest and most expensive CRM.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's the way you look at it, isn't it? But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. Good luck.
The oracle of the CRM in recruitment.
Your words, not mine.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure. All right, well, all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.